Hey, to obey or not to obey? That is the question, to paraphrase Shakespeare. Welcome to American Reversion and Freedom Friday on March, what is it today? 12th? Something like that. I'm Steve Smith, and I want to talk about obedience and disobedience, civil obedience. In the Declaration, it says that governments are instituted amongst men to preserve and protect certain unalienable rights, and that government gets and receives its just powers, just being an operable word, from the consent of the governed. We all know what that means. It means that if the government is doing things that is without the consent of the government, it's no longer a government under the consent of the people, but a tyranny. Well, now, how do we get, and I think that we can all agree right now, that much of what comes out of our government is unjust. It's just as unjust as can be, and how anyone can feel that it's just is beyond us, right? Sadly, in our country now, almost half our nation, well, let's say a third of our nation absolutely believes that injustices are just. A third of it doesn't care and doesn't know enough to care. And maybe a third of us understand the injustices being done by the government. So, what do we do? Okay. How do we give our consent to the government? The consent of the governed, right? We are governed. If we weren't governed, we could do anything we wanted to, but we are, and to an extent, a government is, necessary to a point. But how do we give our consent? Well, the first is by voting in representatives, right? And I hear all the scoffing right now, and I agree with you. I think from some of the comments, I get the idea that some of you don't really yet understand where I'm coming from on this. Yes. By our vote, which matters less and less all the time. But see, it's no surprise to me. What happened in this last one is no surprise. I grew up in a political machine town. I know how dirty elections can be and how voting can be skewed. So it wasn't really a surprise. It is getting worse. It's getting worse all the time. So that's the first part, is our voting. And essentially, if we don't vote, a word of encouragement to those of you who feel that it's just beyond that and voting is stupid. I remind you of the quote that the the results of refusing to participate in the political process is that you are become ruled by your inferiors. I forget who said that, but it's a great quote. I didn't say it. But if we don't, then essentially we are consenting to the decisions of others. But then the second part of it is obedience. Obedience to the laws. Excuse me, I have to redo something. Obedience to the laws and the directives set down by the government, in which case an oppressive, unjust government. Okay, so to what extent do we obey or disobey? Okay, what's the price of obedience? Well, the price of obedience is subservience. What's the price of disobedience? Well, the price can be worse or better, depending on your frame of mind. I've put up today, over on the Patreon channel here, the video for today's Freedom Friday. It's an excellent one. It comes out of the Academy of Ideas, if you've ever watched that. And the name is How Civil Disobedience Safeguards Freedom and Prevents Tyranny. Okay. I think that's something that we all need to start giving thoughts to. I know that some have already left messages on here and comments, but the rate at which we progress on this spectrum by which we show our discontent, I think needs to be controlled so that we are always the one in control. And it doesn't get away from us, so that every step that we take is a purposeful step and doesn't set us up to 2 steps backwards, if that makes any sense. Okay. So we need to think about this. We need to think about obedience, disobedience, civil disobedience, which is mass disobedience. The disobedience on the part of a few individuals, results in either martyrdom or not much, to be honest. Although, to the extent that it's a stance of character, of morality, of personal honor, whatever, it's important and not to be not to be dismissed. But civil disobedience, meaning disobedience on a large scale, is what usually brings about change. We're set up for an atmosphere, a climate of civil disobedience. We've seen it from the other side. Is this going to now grow and finally erupt from those of us who want our country to revert to what it once was under a constitution and pretty much a universal understanding of right and wrong amongst our citizens, which has been lost for some time? We will see, but I think that it's something important to consider, and I would suggest that it's a path that we need to look down and see how far we want to go on it. Okay. So anyway, I suggest, we'll wish you a good Freedom Friday. You should go over and watch this over on the Patreon channel. If it's a great way to support this channel, and I appreciate it. And but you're going to get a lot out of it. There's a lot of great stuff over there, and I'll continue to put up more things. That I kind of do it as a curator of things that you may miss on your own. Not meaning that you couldn't find it, but these are things that you may not have time to go after, or might forget to, or don't think about, whatever. And if we're going to talk about an American reversion, these are some of the things that I put over there that I think should be common knowledge and should be things that we discuss and talk about. And I hope that you'll talk about it down in the comments here. So do that. Head over. I'll put the link down here below. And think about the importance of obedience or disobedience and what it means. So you all have a good day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.